Hello, hello. This is Yuri with Moving Sales Professionals. We're here for another episode of our podcast. And with me today, I have somebody from UK, specifically Rachel Houghton, CEO of Business Moves Group, one of the largest office and commercial removers in the entire UK, with over 35 crews out daily. So we're talking office moving here, and for you guys in United States, of course, in UK, we call it removals versus moving. So you're going to hear removals and removers used a lot here. Okay. So Rachel, what is your background and how did you get into the removal industry?
So I started in the removal industry as a telesales lady or business development. Prior to joining Business Moves, I was actually what we call a nursery nurse, so kindergarten teacher.
Oh, cool.
And I looked after the baby unit. So my opening line for my interview with Business Moves was, I've just spent the last 2 years working out what people need when they can't talk. So I'm sure if you give me a telephone and I can have a conversation with people, I can understand what their needs are and bring them a solution. And that's how I got the job.
Wow, that's great.
And the rest, as they say, is history. Lots of hard work, going out on the cruise with the road, learning the job from the boots up, bit of project management, bit of change management, operational management, to eventually, sort of 15 years ago, becoming managing director, as we call it in the UK, or CEO, as you would say in the US.
Okay, great, great. And of course, I have to ask this question. So, as a woman in a traditionally male-dominated environment, how did you become so successful?
Okay, so hard work, a lot of luck, and a huge support network around me. I was very fortunate to work with an organization that has quite an entrepreneurial spirit about it. They want people to do really, really well. So Simon Darville, founder of Business Moves and my now business partner, he was a real champion for people who came into the business who had that sense of determination. And whilst, yes, there are naysayers everywhere, I'm not answering to a jumped up secretary and all of those sort of words that you hear as a woman coming into business. Actually having the support of our chairman, Simon, and some of the other people in the team and lots of people in the industry. I was given the scope to go and make of the business what I could, to learn whatever skills I needed to learn, to train however I needed to train, to make the business as great as possible. So I put on my steel toe cap boots and my high-vis vest, and I would go out with the guys of a weekend on their moves, and I'd understand what they were doing, and I would get them to teach me so that I understood how to move stuff, how to move safe. I'm not the biggest human being in the world, so there was always a like, oh, you can't do that. And I just had an ethos of, I won't ask anybody to do anything that I won't at least attempt to do myself. And from that sort of mentality, that garnered respect from the crews, garnered trust, and that trust then went both ways. And I'm a quick learner. So I learned how to do the job, which makes being a salesperson in the commercial office moving world much easier, because if you're out surveying a large office relocation, you have to have it in your head how it's going to be done. It's not just about cubing up the amount of materials that need to be moved. It's about understanding the process. And actually, a joint friend of ours really helped me understand that process. In my very early days, I went on a training course with Ed Katz.
Oh, yeah. I love it. Ed is great.
he shared his method with me, and we've continued to communicate. And he's been back many times to train the rest of our teams. But it was that ability of mine, I guess, to be open to new skills, and the open-mindedness of the business to allow me to do things in what may be a slightly different way to the traditional way of doing things. But it was innovative, and it was efficient, and people liked it. And therefore you garner trust with your clients, and you garner trust with your teams. And it just grew and grew. And the more successful the business became, the more successful I became. And so it snowballed on.
Yeah, that's great. So what advice would you give to either women in the industry currently, or women that are thinking about getting into the industry?
So my advice would be the same, actually, whether it's male or female or anything else. It is about hard work. You've got to be prepared to really understand the nuts and the bolts of the business. You can understand business, you can understand finance, you can be the best salesperson in the world. But the removals industry, particularly when you're working with big corporations, you have to understand the why. Why are they moving? How's that going to impact their culture? How's that going to impact the experience of their workers? So they're going to have to change their commute. So you have to have that empathy with not just your client, but your client's internal customer. And you have to understand your own internal customer. You have to understand the nuts and bolts of how a move happens. You can't overpromise by not knowing really what it's going to take to, say, dismantle 3,000 desks over a weekend. These are not IKEA desks where you follow the instructions. These are skilled people who have been learning furniture systems, commercial furniture systems for decades. You have to respect that. The people that worked for you are craftsmen in the moving industry, craftsmen and women in the design, the moving process, the furniture fitting process, the IT decommissioning and recommissioning. So if you want to join the moving industry, you have to respect that the people that work in it, at whatever level they're at, they're craftspeople in their own right. And if they say it's going to take X amount of hours, you have to understand why and respect that, because if you don't, you won't deliver on your promises to the client, and you will end up with a demotivated team. If you think you just don't listen.
Right. And now for a quick message from our sponsors. If you're a moving business owner, you may have already heard of Moversville, an email marketing service that helps moving companies increase, repeat, and referral business. But have you heard of Moversville Connect? Moversville Connect is an incredible resource for all things moving. They feature an array of vendors and services that cater specifically to the moving industry. You can find companies that provide moving software, moving sales services, marketing services, moving equipment providers, and much, much more. Visit moversville.com to learn more. Then this is the industry that certainly, if people are not motivated, it's unforgiving in that regard, because when people are not motivated to do what they need to do, mistakes happen. Whether it's people on the ground specifically that are there physically doing the move, or whether it's people in my office, for example, that are just not, for whatever reason, maybe they're not having a good day, or maybe they're just being lazy. And frankly, we don't keep those for very long. But that can be a difference between providing a quote that the customer is going to be happy with, that the moving company or removal company is going to be happy with, versus providing something where you're going to have to be dealing with a very, very upset customer. And then obviously the owner of the company is not going to be very happy because you messed something up. And we're definitely very focused on not making those mistakes. Or if we do, it's because we were not provided accurate information, not because we didn't ask for it.
Yes.
So I
Yeah,
think that that's
absolutely.
extremely important. But getting back to other things, so how would you describe BMG's place in the UK market removals industry?
I think we're thought of as a business that has great integrity, a business that delivers, and a business that understands our customers. And I say that because when you work a lot in the household moving market, and we don't, but the emotions are still the same. If you are responsible for a large relocation, that could be your apartment, your house, your corporate office, it's huge pressure, huge pressure. And I believe that we're recognized as being a company that really understands that. We take away the stress, we give confidence, we deliver on what we've said we're going to deliver, but we also understand why they're moving, what they want to create in the new environment, how that's impacting different teams within the environment. For us, it's not just about arriving, say, on Friday evening and picking up the items that need to be moved and putting them in their new space. It's about understanding what the team we are moving, what their commitments are, what their project timelines are, what they're worried about, and making sure that the program of works is aligned completely to all of the departments that are going to be impacted by that move. So that everybody can come away from the move saying, do you know that was a really positive experience? Or at worst, people just go, yeah, it was okay. That's the worst we want, is people say, yeah, that was fine.
Right. Yeah. I mean, ultimately, when you're doing household move, yeah, you may have a client that's not happy with you. So that's one thing. But when you're dealing with offices, when somebody's setting up the move for you, honestly, how well a moving company or removal company that does an office move does their job may have direct impact on the person that set that company up. So if it was horrible and it was completely whatever, it could be that person's jobs at times. When it's an
Yeah.
office move. If and vice versa, it could be, if they did a great job and the company was just amazing and everybody was happy and the ownership was happy and the CEOs were happy of the company and everything went well, even if it's slightly over budget, as long as the end result is a positive one, that could mean a promotion for that person or that secretary or whoever else that was in charge of setting up the removal company or choosing a removal company, whatever the case may be. So that's the other thing to keep in mind too, is that you're in household goods, you're not somebody's not losing their job potentially. In office commercial, it could be somebody's life that you're affecting. And now for a quick message from our sponsors. For limited time only, we have partnered with an SEO and marketing company with discounted rates for their services. Schedule an appointment via Calendly link below to learn more. Thank you. And now getting back to the podcast.
Yeah, for sure. When I first started, I don't know what the statistics look like today, because I think the UK moving market landscape has changed dramatically. But when I first started, it would be a secretary or an FM manager or an office manager who organised the moves. Now it tends to, well, certainly the companies we work with, they have sort of whole departments based around moves, changes in real estate. But back then, it was something like 20% of people who organise the moving company lose their jobs if the move goes badly. That's a huge percentage of people.
Right.
That would probably sit more with the companies that are going to move once and not move again. Our market tends to be clients who are moving all the time around their own estate. So big office occupiers. We have some clients who may move 20,000 colleagues in a year around the same estate. So that sort of statistic wouldn't really sit with that. But for those companies that maybe have 40, 50 staff, they're just going to move once, I think those statistics are probably still quite real.
Yeah, so that's important. So for those of you guys thinking about office moving, definitely put your heart into it. And I think but I mean, in general, integrity is just such a underused and underappreciated word in general, especially in this industry, because there's so many companies that don't do honest and reliable work. And we here at Moving Sales Professionals, we're definitely very focused on culture, and we take it very personal because on one side, moving companies, removal companies are our clients. On the other side, we're working with their clients. So we're forging personal relationships with them where they may be using that removal or that moving company over and over again. So whenever these people that we spent potentially hours on the phone with, when their moves go bad and it's nothing that we did, but it's the company and their attitude and their treatment of people that's wrong. Honestly, anybody here would have a very hard time living with that. And I can tell you that for a fact that recently we went separate ways with a company that we worked with for 2 years, because for 2 years we were hoping that some of the culture and the things that they were doing would change. But in the end, in the end, 5 salespeople later, we had to step away and just say, look, we can't continue doing this like that. Because, and one thing is, if this is something that's happening with every single client, then we can look at it and say, okay, is it something that we're doing? But in the end, it's in that particular case, it's only that company. Like, it's very rare, knock on wood, it's very rare in this office that we have issues with personal moves. It's very rare that we have severe underquoting or anything like that. It's very rare that we have arguments with clients. It's rare. It's to a point where we may have a conversation once a month, maybe not even that. And in most cases, whenever we have the conversation, it's misunderstanding about something with the pricing that was initially explained, and the customer just maybe misheard it or maybe understood something different. But it's generally just a matter of explaining, and it's taken care of fairly quickly. But it's very rare that we have that. With that company, it was a daily thing. It was literally every day there was something going on. And realistically, for us, the final straw was when the owner of the company basically screamed at a pregnant woman. So that was the end of that for us. We, at that point, we drew the line where, so, we gave a 30-day notice, and thankfully that contract was at a month-to-month stage at that point anyway. So, and this is something recent. So we're going to be done in a couple of weeks here with that company, never to deal with it again, thank God, because everybody here is so relieved. And just the room where everybody was sitting that worked with that company, like, you could feel the pressure go poof, like, where everybody's like, oh my God, thank you. So it's situations like that. You have to make the right choice. It can't be always about the money, and it can't be always about how much can I make today. It's not about how much you're going to make today. In this industry, it's not about today. It's about long term. What can you, from one client that you might have given some sort of so let's say $200 off on their move because there was something going on, right? That client, yeah, you lost that $200 in the immediate sense, right? But in the long term, with the referrals and reviews that person could potentially post, and people that they can recommend, you're going to gain a lot more than that $200 you lost.
Oh, for sure. My business partner, Simon, has an expression. He says, no one piece of business or any amount of money is worth more than our reputation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why I talk to a lot of companies that I talk to these days, and I really changed that way. And I stress one thing. I said, look, we are a brand. Even though we're still a young company, we are still a brand. A lot of people see that logo behind me and they recognize it at this point. But we want to work with other people that want to make their company a brand, that care about long-term future, long-term perspectives, long-term things that they can do with that. So that is so important. So but getting away from that and getting back to our conversation, what would you say are some cons and pros of doing commercial removals in the UK market?
Obviously, I'm a big advocate for doing commercial moves in
Of
the
course.
UK market. They don't come without their challenges, though.
Okay. What are some of the challenges?
So naturally, many of our clients are in the big cities across the UK. And we're not known for having the biggest streets
Right.
here. So, and a lot of our towns and cities are pedestrianised now.
Mm-hmm.
So logistically, sometimes there is a challenge around how we get close by and how we organise that. I mean, we're experts at it. We've been doing
right.
it for
So you
20
need
years
to be creative, in other words.
Yeah, I mean, it's all in the planning. Every single thing about a commercial move is in the planning. Nothing is left to chance. And the industry is changing now. Well, it's constantly evolved since I first started. The workspace is changing, how people work is changing, and things that need moving are getting smaller. So technology is smaller. I remember the days when you would need a whole cage for one person's IT. And now, most people take their IT home with them. It's just monitors and docking stations and monitors now. So there are challenges to being a commercial mover right now because there is not as much stuff to move. But there is a huge opportunity in the commercial moving market to really get under the skin of our clients and understand how their workplace is evolving and making sure that we're at the forefront of the trends for how things are going to change going forward. Obviously, the pandemic had a big impact on being a commercial mover. We don't do household moves at all. So during the pandemic, there was nobody in the offices. There wasn't a whole heap of office moves to do at that stage. So, that's a challenge that we've never had before. But we adapt and we come back stronger. The positives of being a commercial office mover is that you get to experience such fascinating environments. We're embedded in these businesses. We work with them week after week, day after day. So we really get to understand how that landscape is changing. We get to understand people's ESG models and what their targets are and adapt our service on recycling and circular economy, the fastest growing part of our business over the last few years. Because we are trusted partners and we get to see big tech companies, we get to see the biggest financial houses, all adapting their businesses constantly for new ways of working. And we are very fortunate position to be part of that journey. And for me, that's the bit that gets me really excited, that we get to work in such amazing environments and really understand different industries every day.
I think in general, you definitely want to stay with the times. You can't expect, I mean, everything is evolving. Technology is evolving, business is evolving. There's look, we're on the podcast, something that was on, something that was meant as something else entirely. So it's, now we use the internet and social media in a way that we've never thought of using it before. So it's, you definitely need to keep track of the new trends and figure out which of those trends work for your business or for your company. So I think that's extremely important, and it's great to hear you say that. But our time is running out here, and it's been such a pleasure and a treat to have you on. Thank you so much, Rachel. Of course, we'd love to have you on again at some point. It's a
course.
pleasure, and we'll have some links behind below this podcast for BMG. And in general, you can, if you're trying to grow your business, you can maybe send a message to Rachel through LinkedIn or anything like that. And if she's a very, very busy woman, but if she's able to, I'm sure she won't mind responding and maybe giving a tip or two. But overall, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure. And as we always say, the world moves on its own, so let the professionals move yours for you. Thank you very much for joining us. It's a pleasure, and we will see you all soon. Thank you.